The billion-dollar rent check. Anthropic is currently paying Elon Musk $1.25 billion every single month. That number was buried deep in the May 2026 SpaceX IPO filing, and it represents the most aggressive pivot in the history of the AI sector. While the public narrative around xAI focused on Grok's performance against GPT-5, the balance sheet tells a different story. That massive $6 billion capital injection was never about building a better chatbot. It was about xAI becoming a hyperscale landlord for its own competitors. By leasing out the entire Colossus One cluster to the very company Musk once labeled as an existential threat, xAI has effectively admitted that the real margins aren't in the models, but in the power lines and the server racks. The real margin in Memphis. This $6 billion round served one primary function. It funded a brute force infrastructure build-out that bypassed traditional cloud providers. Think of it like this. Instead of paying the standard 20% margin to Amazon or Google, Musk built his own gigafactory of compute in Memphis using portable gas turbines to dodge local grid constraints. This allowed xAI to hit a capital expenditure efficiency that the industry hasn't seen. The S1 filing reveals that xAI's cost per megawatt is roughly $2.7 million, compared to an industry average of over $12 million. When you have a cost basis that low, you don't need Grok to be the top model. You just need to be the only person with 200,000 GPUs available for immediate rent when a competitor's own clusters fail to scale. The heterogeneous architecture trap. Critics often point out that xAI's Colossus cluster is an engineering mess. It is a heterogeneous mix of H100s, H200s, and the newer GB200s, all stitched together in a way that makes unified training a nightmare. But this architectural inefficiency is exactly why the infrastructure pivot is so lucrative. While this mixed bag setup is suboptimal for Musk's internal frontier training, it is perfectly suited for inference workloads. Anthropic isn't using Colossus to build Claude 4, they are using it to handle the massive inference load of Claude Max. This allows xAI to offload its second-tier hardware to a high-paying tenant, while using the resulting cash flow to fund the Blackwell-only Colossus 2 cluster for its own research. It is a strategic recycling of OpEx that turns a technical debt into a $15 billion annual revenue line. The SpaceX IPO Lever. The absorption of xAI into SpaceX earlier this year wasn't a random merger. It was a pre-IPO accounting move designed to mask the volatility of the AI business with the steady recurring revenue of Starlink. In the first quarter of 2026, over 76% of SpaceX's capital deployment went into AI infrastructure, not rockets. This creates a massive capital engine where Starlink's cash flow subsidizes GPU purchases, and those GPUs generate high-margin rental income from rivals like Anthropic. However, the risk here is the 90-day termination clause in these compute contracts. If Anthropic builds its own facility, or if the demand for inference drops, that 12-figure revenue stream evaporates instantly, leaving SpaceX with billions in depreciating silicon and a massive power bill. The rent-seeking frontier. The $6 billion round was the opening move in a shift from artificial intelligence to artificial infrastructure. By using that capital to build the Colossus clusters and then leasing them to Anthropic, xAI has proven that the compute war is no longer a race for the best weights, but a race for the most gigawatts. The real takeaway from the 2026 financials is that foundation models are rapidly commoditizing, while high-density, liquid-cooled floor space is becoming the only scarce resource in the valley. For operators and investors, this means the valuation of AI startups will soon be judged by their power purchase agreements, rather than their benchmark scores. If you want to know who is winning the next phase of this cycle, stop looking at Grok's chat interface and start tracking the expansion of the Memphis power permit applications. The next indicator to watch is the June 2026 SpaceX IPO pricing, which will determine if the market accepts this pivot from aerospace to AI landlord. Subscribe for more